I was told I wasn't needed at the New Year's retreat. We're keeping it small this year. Then I saw photos. Everyone there, smiling, even the colleagues. I said nothing until my brother texted, still covering the $3,200 lodge, right? I replied, absolutely, then canceled it. His panic began at 9 a.m., 47 missed calls. The call came just after lunch. I was in the crew lounge at O'Hare, sipping cold coffee from a paper cup that tasted like cardboard, when my phone buzzed. Karen. I hadn't heard from her in months, maybe longer. Not since she skipped my birthday with a vague, "we'll celebrate soon" text and never followed up. I answered, bracing myself. Hey honey, she said in that too sweet voice of hers. Hope you're doing well. I just wanted to catch you before the end of the year. I raised my eyebrows. Okay, what's up? She paused like she was easing into a pool. So we're doing things a little differently this year for the New Year's chalet trip. Just keeping it super tight. You know, intimate, smaller circle. I didn't respond right away. My stomach did that hollow drop thing it hadn't done in years. Smaller circle, I repeated. Meaning, you don't need to come this year, she said, way too casually. Dean and his family are bringing a few friends, and it's already going to be a full house. We figured you'd want to relax anyway. Maybe take a flight somewhere sunny. I swallowed hard. Right. She cleared her throat. But just a heads up, the rental came out to about $3,200 again. If you could wire it over by Friday, that'd be perfect. Of course, not a thank you, not an offer to split it, just another casual demand, like always. I stared at the wall in front of me. Of course. Great. Love you, sweetie. We'll send pics. And then the line went dead. I held the phone to my ear for a second longer, even though the call had ended. The lounge around me buzzed with chatter and the soft ding of boarding announcements, but I didn't hear any of it. My ears were full of that awful silence that follows a sucker punch. I booked that same chalet every year for the last 6 years, paid the full rental, organized the groceries, even covered the lift tickets last time because Glenn forgot his wallet. And now, suddenly, I wasn't invited? That night, after my flight to Charlotte and back, I sat on my couch, still in uniform, with a beer in one hand and my phone in the other. I didn't feel tired, not even numb, just hollow. I opened Instagram. First photo, Glenn holding a champagne flute next to the lodge's fireplace. Next, Karen laughing beside a table of appetizers, surrounded by people I hadn't seen in years, cousins, in-laws, neighbors. Then one from Dean, fireworks over the lake, captioned, best tradition ever. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Dean had told me he couldn't make it this year. Photo after photo. I kept scrolling. Everyone smiling. Everyone glowing with the warmth of the fire, of champagne, of exclusion. Everyone but me. I closed the app and stared at the ceiling. Not anger. Not yet. Just that hollow feeling again. That was the moment I knew something had shifted. Something I couldn't put back. The next morning, I was back in the air. Chicago to Denver. Quick turnaround to Seattle. Clear skies. Easy routes. But I barely registered the altitudes or headings. My mind was stuck on that last photo. Dean, arm around Karen, both of them grinning like they'd never had a lie pass their lips. I stared at the clouds from the cockpit window, hand resting on the yoke, autopilot humming. I couldn't stop thinking about that call, about how I had nodded along like a trained dog and said, of course, when they asked for money after disinviting me. I should have been used to it by now, but I wasn't. During the layover in Seattle, I sat alone in the airport cafe and pulled up that photo again. Dean's caption played over in my head. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Funny. Since just 2 weeks ago he told me he had a conflict. Said he and Lisa were going to stay home with the kids this year. Needed a break from the drive. I zoomed in on the photo. The reflection in the window behind them showed the corner of the dining room table. The same one I paid to have delivered last year after Karen accidentally told me the chalet furniture was falling apart. I opened my messages and scrolled until I found the thread with Glenn. Glenn, hey Miles, just checking the lodge payment went through like last year. Can you confirm? The message had come in just that morning, like clockwork. No, Happy New Year. No, sorry you couldn't make it. Just cold business. I stared at it. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then, instead of replying, I opened my bank app. I scrolled to the automatic transfer I'd set up months ago, a recurring payment, scheduled to hit their account that Friday. $3,200. Like always. My finger hovered over the cancel transfer button. I hesitated. This was the moment. Not because of the money, but because I knew if I did this, I was crossing a line I couldn't uncross. The part of me that still hoped to be included, to be seen, to be appreciated, that part would die here. I tapped the button. Transfer canceled. The confirmation banner flashed across the screen. It was done. At first, nothing happened. No lightning bolt. No guilt. Just a quiet sort of stillness. My fingers trembled, not from nerves, but from the weight lifting. I packed up my bag, finished my coffee, and boarded the flight back to Chicago. 4 hours later, the silence broke. My phone vibrated in quick succession as I stepped into my apartment. Voicemail from Glenn. Text from Karen. Missed call from Dean. Then another, and another. 10 calls in the span of an hour. Voicemails stacked on top of each other. Karen, hey sweetheart, just wondering if something went wrong with the payment. No pressure, just need it sorted by tomorrow or we'll lose the lodge deposit. Glenn, Miles, I don't know what's going on, but we really need that rent. Call me back. The panic was starting to seep in. They'd built the whole weekend on my back, like always, and now the floor was gone. I poured a glass of water and sat on the couch. Let it ring. Let them stew. Let them finally feel the silence I'd been living in for years. By the next morning, I was no longer just angry. I was clear. Something had clicked inside me. Not rage, not bitterness, something colder, focused. I was done waiting for them to realize what they'd done. Now it was my turn to move. Quietly. Precisely. I started with the SUV. Karen had always loved to play queen bee around town. Drove a white Lexus she couldn't afford. Talked about it like it was her reward for sacrificing so much. She forgot, or pretended to forget, that the lease was in both our names. She needed a cosigner with income. That had been me. I logged into the leasing portal and navigated to the Policy section. One click, and I submitted the removal request. Since the payments were 5 months overdue, not that she ever mentioned it, the company was already reviewing for repossession. Let them come get it. Next was the emergency credit card. It had started as a just-in-case card. Back when Glenn had his second hernia surgery, they'd asked if I could open one for medical overflow, promised it'd only be for emergencies. I'd stupidly agreed, told them to use it responsibly. In the past 6 months, charges had appeared for spa packages, a Louis Vuitton wallet, something called crystal rejuvenation therapy. Nearly $4,000 in total. I had screenshots. I called the bank. Hi, yes, I'd like to dispute several unauthorized purchases. The card is under my name. I'm not the one who made these. The woman on the line was polite and efficient. By the end of the call, the card was frozen, the fraud claims were filed, and the balance flagged for investigation. Third strike. The boat. Dean's boat had been sitting behind his house for 2 summers now. A used chaparral runabout. Decent shape, ridiculous purchase. He didn't even have it registered. I'd helped him secure the loan under my credit, since he couldn't swing the interest rate alone. He'd promised to take over payments next month. That was 10 months ago. I found the paperwork in my desk drawer. Still in my name. Still my legal property. I sent in the repo order online. 2 clicks. Done. That one would sting the most. Dean loved playing rich guy at the lake. Now he'd have to explain to his buddies why his toy was being towed off the driveway. By noon, I had made more decisions in 4 hours than I had in 4 years. No yelling, no threats, just action. That evening, I sat on my balcony with a beer in one hand, and my phone turned face down beside me. The sun was setting behind the Chicago skyline, and I could almost pretend none of it had ever happened. But inside, I knew better. Because while I breathed calmly in that quiet, the other side of the family line was unraveling. I imagined Karen opening her spa app, getting a declined message. Dean stepping outside to find his boat gone. Glenn seeing a repo truck roll up to the house with Karen's Lexus on the list. They were used to my money. They were used to my silence. Now they were going to get used to something else. Life without me. By the end of the week, their panic had gone from quiet to public. Karen had called me 9 times. Glenn had left 2 voicemails that started calm and ended with him shouting about family obligations. Dean sent a single text, just a question mark. They were scrambling. But what really set it off was Dean's Facebook post. Some people will abandon their family and still call it growth. Sad. No name. No direct call-out. Just vague enough to play the victim. Just sharp enough that everyone who knew us would connect the dots. That's when I decided, no more silence. I didn't care about saving face anymore. They'd taken my money, my time, and my patience, and still made me the villain when I stopped letting them bleed me dry. So I logged into my account and started pulling receipts, literal and figurative. I opened a new Google Drive folder and named it Family Records. Inside, I dropped everything. Screenshots of every lodge payment confirmation over the last 6 years. Text from Karen asking me to cover Glenn's overdue property taxes. The co-sign agreement for Dean's boat. Bank statement showing the luxury purchases on the emergency card. A copy of the email where Karen told me I wasn't needed at the New Year's trip. Then, I found the photos from the chalet, the ones they posted during the retreat. Karen in front of the fire. Glenn toasting champagne. Dean holding court at the dinner table. Laughter, drinks, sparklers, fireworks. Every single person in the family was there, except me. I picked the clearest one, the group photo by the lake with the mountains behind them. Everyone smiling, everyone pretending. I posted it to my feed. Caption: for 6 years I paid for the chalet, stocked the fridge, covered the bills, and made sure everyone had a place to celebrate. This year, I was told I wasn't needed. Then I was asked to pay for it anyway. And when I said no, the calls started. The begging, the guilt trips. They never invited me, but they still expected me to fund the party. So no, I'm not abandoning family. I'm just done financing people who only love me when I'm useful. It didn't take long. Within minutes, the comments started pouring in. Some were stunned. Wait, they did this to you? Well, I remember those trips. I thought you organized them. Speechless. Others were predictably defensive. A couple of Karen's cousins chimed in with half-hearted scolds about airing private drama. Dean tried to reply with a laughing emoji. I deleted it. I wasn't looking for a fight, just clarity. I let the truth speak for itself. Then I turned off my phone. I grabbed the bottle of bourbon I'd been saving and poured myself a glass. Sat on the couch, lights low, the city glowing outside my windows. I sipped slow. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything, and it was quiet. God, it was peaceful. 2 weeks passed before I heard anything. Then came the invitation. A group text from Karen, rare enough to be suspicious. Karen, hey everyone, spring equinox barbecue at our place. Saturday at 3. Burgers, beers, and good vibes. Let's reconnect and move forward. Family is family. Reconnect, right? I stared at the message for a minute. No one had apologized. No one had called to own up to what they did. But suddenly they wanted to move forward. Translation: the neighbors are starting to ask questions. The Facebook post had traveled further than I expected. A few people from church, some of Glenn's golf buddies, even Dean's coworkers had commented or messaged me privately. The story was out, and my family was bleeding credibility. So they needed a photo op, a redemption arc, and I was supposed to play along. I waited a full day before replying. Me, sure, I'll be there. No emoji, no smiley face, just yes. But I wasn't coming as the black sheep. I was coming with a match. That Saturday, I arrived late. The party had already kicked into gear. The backyard was packed, picnic tables, fairy lights strung across the fence, a Bluetooth speaker pumping out some acoustic playlist. Karen was at the grill, apron on, tongs in hand, trying to look maternal. Glenn stood by the cooler, laughing too loud at nothing. I stepped through the gate in a tailored button-up and slacks. Not flashy, just sharp enough to draw eyes. People noticed. Karen's smile faltered when she saw me. Glenn's laugh died mid-sentence. Dean nodded from across the yard like we were cool, like none of it happened. I made my rounds. Small talk, firm handshakes. I kept it light, let them get comfortable. Then Karen called everyone together. She clinked a glass with a spoon, the kind of thing people do when they're trying to summon wholesomeness. Okay, everyone, she said, beaming, let's take a second to just say how grateful we are to have the whole family together. We've had our ups and downs, but today is about unity. A few people clapped. I didn't. Karen raised her glass. To family. I stepped forward. Actually, I said, loud enough to quiet the music. Before we toast, I've got something to share. Karen blinked. Miles, now's really not. No, now's perfect. I walked to the folding table by the fence and tapped my phone. The Bluetooth speaker connected instantly. I had paired it earlier. The music stopped. On the outdoor screen, the one Glenn used for movie nights, I cast a folder titled Receipts. The first slide appeared, a Venmo screenshot. To Karen, chalet payment, $3,200. Next, a PDF of a credit card statement for $1,000 in spot charges under my name. Then, a photo of Dean's boat being loaded onto a flatbed. And finally, the chalet group photo, with the caption from my post. Gasps. Someone dropped a plastic cup. A few people stepped back instinctively like they were too close to the heat. Karen's face drained of color. Glenn turned beet red. Dean started muttering something I couldn't hear over the rising murmur. I looked around the yard, calm as ever. I didn't come here to make peace, I said. I came to set the record straight. I was cut out of my own family trip and still expected to pay for it. I was used like a bank, then discarded when I wasn't useful anymore. And now I'm supposed to smile, eat a burger, and pretend it never happened. I scanned their stunned faces. No, not this time. Karen's voice cracked. You're blowing this out of proportion. I'm shining a light. Dean stepped forward, waving a hand. Man, you don't have to do this here. Exactly here, I said. In front of the same people you lied to. The same people who thought I just bailed for no reason. The screen behind me flipped through more images. Itemized transfers. Group chats with guilt-laced requests. Photos. Texts. Proof. Chaos erupted. Karen started crying. Glenn tried to unplug the speaker and tripped over a cooler. Dean shouted something incoherent as he stormed into the house. Neighbors whispered. Friends stared. Someone recorded. I turned back to the crowd and gave a short nod. Thanks for the invitation, I said. Then I walked out the way I came in, calm, clean, and finally done pretending. Monday morning came like a fresh start. While the rest of the family scrambled to save face after the barbecue blow-up, I was at my kitchen counter, laptop open, coffee in hand, handling things, the kind of things they'd never imagined I'd actually follow through on. First stop, the chalet rental company. I pulled up the email threads, every year's receipt, all under my name. The current year's payment was still pending because I'd canceled it, but the rental agreement still listed me as the primary client. I called the manager directly. Hi, this is Miles Reynolds. I've been renting your lake chalet every New Year's for the last 6 years. I need to talk to someone about fraudulent usage on my reservation. The woman on the other end was polite but hesitant until I forwarded the email from Karen that said, we're doing a tight circle this year. Just send the money like usual. That, plus my financial history with them, made the difference. By the end of the call, they agreed to process a settlement refund for misrepresentation of use corporate phrasing for, you got screwed by your family. 2 days later, I received the deposit, $3,200 straight into my account. Next, I followed up on the credit card dispute. I'd already flagged the charges, but now the bank had reviewed the receipts and delivery records. None of the spa packages or luxury goods had my signature. They traced the purchases to Karen's address. The fraud claim was approved. Balance erased. Then came the boat. Dean had tried calling the finance company to stop the repossession, but he had no standing. The boat was still in my name. Legally, it had always been mine. The auction happened quietly, 2 towns over. I didn't even go. But I got the email confirmation a week later. Your collateral has sold. Remaining proceeds after loan payoff, $5,876. Another deposit. Clean. Legal. Done. By the end of the month, I had transferred over $30,000 into a new high-yield account under my name, only money I had once spent on them. Now it was mine again, and while I built something with it, they fell apart. Karen's Lexus disappeared from the driveway, confirmed by a very satisfying photo Glenn accidentally left in the background of a Facebook post. Dean's credit tanked. Rumor had it he tried to apply for a business loan and was denied flat out. Their panic turned to quiet desperation. Eviction notices. Repossessions. Karen's wine club friends started unfollowing. Dean's boating buddies stopped inviting him to the lake, and not a single one of them could say it wasn't fair, because deep down, they knew. I didn't take anything from them. I just stopped giving. And when the withdrawals stopped, their whole world collapsed. I sat on my balcony one evening, bourbon in hand, my phone silent beside me. I watched the lights of the city flicker to life. It felt good. Not out of revenge. Out of relief. They finally knew what it felt like to be left out, and this time, they weren't getting back in. The knock came during a storm. It was a Thursday night, one of those early spring tempests that hit Chicago without warning. Rain hammered the windows. Wind howled through the alley. I was halfway through a movie, a bowl of leftover chili in my lap, when I heard it. 3 slow knocks on the door. I muted the TV and waited. Another knock. I stood, chili forgotten, and peeked through the peephole. Karen. Behind her stood Glenn, soaked to the bone. Dean, 2 arms crossed, hoodie clinging to his skin. Even Lisa was there, clutching a dripping handbag like it was a life raft. No one said a word. They just looked up at my door, hollow-eyed and shivering. I didn't move at first. Part of me wanted to let them sit in it, literally. Let the rain wash off the last bit of pride they'd been clinging to. But curiosity won. I opened the door a crack. Karen stepped forward like she was about to hug me, but stopped when she saw my face. We just wanted to talk, she said, her voice shaky. Please. I stepped aside, letting them file into the hallway, not the living room. They weren't getting comfortable. They stood there, dripping puddles onto the hardwood, a pathetic lineup of what used to be my whole world. Karen was the first to speak. I know we messed up, she said, wringing her hands. I know we took advantage, but things have been really hard lately. Glenn lost his job. Dean's got debt. We need help, Miles. I said nothing. Glenn cleared his throat. I was thinking, maybe we could start over, reset things. As a family. Dean looked everywhere but at me. Lisa just stared at the floor. You want to reset? I said slowly. After 6 years of taking my money, after cutting me out and lying, after expecting me to keep paying for the life you were pretending to live without me in it. Karen's eyes welled up. We were stupid. We got used to it. But we're trying to be better now. Please. Just a little help. That's when I really looked at them. No makeup. No posturing. No Instagram-ready smiles. Just soaked, tired, broken people who thought their golden goose might still have some eggs left. I used to think helping meant saying yes, I said. But it doesn't. Sometimes it means saying no, and letting people clean up their own mess. Karen stepped forward. Miles, no. I said, my voice firm now. It's too late. You didn't just use me. You made me feel like I didn't matter unless I was paying for the table you sat me away from. The silence stretched. Then I opened the door again, this time wider. You can leave now. They hesitated. Karen looked like she wanted to say more, but the words never came. One by one, they stepped back into the rain. I closed the door behind them and leaned against it, listening to the sound of their footsteps fading into the storm. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel bad. It happened a few weeks later, on a quiet Tuesday evening. I just finished grabbing groceries from the local store down on Milwaukee Avenue, the kind of place where you bump into old neighbors and end up talking too long in front of the frozen pizzas. I was walking toward the self-checkout when I spotted him by the bottled water aisle. Glenn. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically, he still had that stocky build, but everything about him seemed shrunken. His clothes didn't fit like they used to. His posture was stooped. His hair, once neatly combed and dyed just enough to hide the gray, was now patchy, a full streak of silver running down one side. He looked older than I remembered. He saw me before I could decide what to do. Our eyes locked. He didn't smile, didn't wave. He just stared for a second too long, like he was still deciding whether to speak at all. Then he stepped toward me. Hey, he said, voice low. Didn't expect to see you here. I nodded once, keeping my expression neutral. Glenn. He glanced down at the floor, then back up. You look good. Healthier. I didn't respond. He shoved his hands in his pockets. Listen, I don't want to take up your time. He paused, swallowed. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. The words hung there for a moment. Heavy. Real. I didn't think you'd actually walk away, he continued, voice barely above a whisper. I figured, you'd cool off, come back around. You always did. He looked up at me then, and for the first time in years, there wasn't a trace of smugness in his face. No performative wisdom, no fake warmth, just a tired man who'd lost the only person who ever held the whole mess together. I was wrong, he said. We were wrong. I didn't say anything, not because I didn't have words. I had plenty, but none of them were worth giving away anymore. Instead, I just looked at him, not angry, not hurt, just done. And I think that was worse for him than anything I could have said. After a moment, I gave a small nod and turned toward the registers. He didn't follow. Back at my apartment, I unpacked the groceries in silence. The city lights flickered against the windows. Somewhere below, a siren wailed and faded. I poured a fresh cup of coffee, sat down by the window, and watched the night roll in. I didn't feel victorious or bitter. I just felt free. And for once, that was enough.